LA just dropped its homeless numbers, like I told you in the previous video, but they're worse than anybody. Karen Bass lied completely. The other one chairs the homelessness committee. July 25th, the Los Angeles Homelessness Service Authority released its annual count. Homelessness is up 3.4%. People sleeping on the street up 7.9%. Karen Bass called it the first ever back to back decreases in homelessness. Rahman called it incremental progress. The math must be really bad. Homelessness went up, unsheltered went up, and the mayor, the one who campaigned on fixing this, called it a decrease. That's not spin, that's not political message, that's gaslighting, and they're betting that you're going to fall for it once again. And I'm going to show you exactly how they did it and why Spencer Pratt probably would have been on the ballot in LA if the voters had actually seen these numbers before they voted. If you want to see how a city of 4 million people gets gaslit by its own government repeatedly over the course of a couple months and how one homeless count exposes the entire machine in LA, hit like right now and subscribe because here's what I'm going to show you. First, the numbers, the real ones, not what Bass said at her press conference, not what Lasha actually reported. And I'm telling you, the gap between the two is going to piss you the fuck off. Second, the timing. When this report was ready, when it was released, and why the New York Post said the quiet part out loud that if voters had known, Pratt would be on the ballot. And third, the impossible choice they manufactured because Bass and Rodman aren't accidentally both still standing because they know and they're sure that you're going to vote for Bass. And I'll show you how. Let's start with what Karen Bass said. First ever back to back decreases. Sounds like progress, right? You would think so. Sounds like things are getting better. Sounds like the person in charge should keep their job. But now let's look at what was actually reported. Homelessness up 3.4%. Unsheltered homelessness, the number of people actually sleeping on the streets, in tents, in doorways, probably on your sidewalk, like Spencer Pratt showed you that you walk past every day, is up 7.9%. Yes, that's not my number. That's not his number. That's from their own city government. That's from her own administration. And remember, in an interview, she said she couldn't get things done because of her own city government. Does this lady think before she talks? Yes, it's up, not down. So, how does Karen Bass stand at a podium and call that a decrease? How do you look at a 7.9% spike in people on the street and say things are getting better? I'll tell you how. She's counting the people they moved into temporary shelters. She's counting hotel vouchers. She's counting interim housing placements. She's calling it a decrease because some people are no longer on the street, even though more people are homeless overall. That's like saying crime is down because you moved criminals from the street into your living room. The problem didn't disappear, it just rearranged where it's visible. And here's the part that should actually piss you off. They knew these numbers months ago. The count was conducted in January. Repeat that, January. The data was analyzed by spring and the report, it just dropped. July 25th, after the primary. After Spencer Pratt was eliminated. That's not a coincidence. That's a strategy. And here's where the New York Post story comes in. Because, New York's everything. Because someone in the press finally said the thing that nobody was supposed to say out loud. The Post, not the LA Times, not CNN, not MS Now, the New York Post, a paper headquartered 3,000 miles away, reported what everyone in LA was probably already thinking. The homelessness numbers are bad. They were hidden until after the elections, and Pratt got erased. Here's a quote. If voters had known the homelessness numbers before the primary, Spencer Pratt would have made the runoff. But I'm saying he probably would have beat Karen Bass out. I don't know if he'd have knocked her out completely, but he probably would have had the majority of the vote. That's not me saying some of these things. That's the New York Post saying it. In a paper with no stake in LA politics, no dog in the race, looking at the numbers from across the country and saying that was rigged. So let's talk about what does that mean for you? Because there are three things that happen when you bury a report until after the election comes. And folks, this is LA, but this is the kind of stuff that applies nationwide. This is the shit you need to pay attention to. One, the incumbent gets to campaign on a false record. She stood on the debate stage and said her policies were working. She knew they weren't. The numbers existed. They just weren't public yet on purpose. Two, the challenger, the one running on the actual crisis, gets denied his best argument. Spencer Pratt's entire campaign was about the failure of city government. If those numbers had been public before the primary, every debate, every interview, every headline would have been about the spike in homeless, and Bass couldn't have spun it. Three, the voters are left with an impossible choice, Dumb and Dumber. That's not a choice between solutions. That's a choice between who gets to lie to you next. But now let's talk about the impossible choice because it didn't happen by accident. Karen Bass is a Democratic incumbent mayor of a one-party city. Rahman is a DSA-backed city council member who chairs the homelessness committee. Now, remember, the DSA wants communism. Don't forget, one of their leaders on the national chair said it. And Spencer Pratt, a Republican reality star with zero government experience, but he does have a degree in political science, outraised Bass, dominated the media narrative, and finished the election night believing he was in the runoff. And then magically, he wasn't. A reality star, no party backing, no campaign stuff, no political experience. Outraised the sitting there, dominated the media cycle. And when the mail in ballots finally stopped trickling in 2 weeks later, somehow he's out, after being up by like 5 or 6%. I call bullshit. Mail in ballots heavily favor Democratic voters. You can't deny that one. They take weeks to count. Only in California, really, though. In that 2 week window, a race that looked like it might deliver a Republican to the runoff didn't happen. He never got the chance. I'm not saying fraud, saying there's something going on here. Long counting periods, late arriving ballots, a media environment that treats too close to call as not close enough for us to cover. And the result, LA voters in a city where homelessness is the #1 issue. Spencer Pratt was the only candidate who actually ran on this. If you want to know more, stay tuned, check out the next video because there is more to come.